The FCC is the Federal Communications Commission. Created in 1934 by the Federal Communications Act, the FCC is supposed to regulate telephony, cable, the Internet, the broadcast industry, and the scarce, irreplaceable public resource that is the broadcast spectrum in the public interest. But in the real world, it's hard to imagine a federal agency that is more nakedly and completely captured by the interest it supposedly regulates than the FCC. Most top-level FCC staff, up to and including FCC commissioners themselves, go directly to work for big cable, the telecoms, or broadcasters after leaving government. 3 of the last 4 FCC chiefs, Republicans and Democrats alike, are now lobbyists and consultants for the interest they supposedly regulated. The 4th, as U.S. ambassador to the European Union, is demanding that those countries follow the U.S. example of privatizing their internet backbones and allowing cell phone companies to gouge customers with restrictive contracts and higher prices as they do here in the United States. The current FCC chairman is a longtime AT&T lobbyist who helped write the Telecommunications Act of 1996, privatizing the U.S. internet backbone constructed at a cost of hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars by selling it to AT&T and other telecoms for pennies on the dollar. The FCC grants absolutely free monopoly licenses to greedy corporations, supposedly in the public interest, to run their immensely profitable businesses upon the scarce public property that is the broadcast spectrum. In return, radio, TV, and cable broadcasters have given us a vast wasteland, almost devoid of local news, local voices, local artists, or local content. Commercial broadcasters and cable operators have utterly and undisputably failed to live up to public service stipulations of their licenses. Recently, the transition from analog to digital TV has made thousands of new frequencies available, ideal for municipal broadband or Wi-Fi, or for the creation of hundreds of new local not-for-profit broadcast TV stations around the country. But instead of using these frequencies to create new and diverse community broadcasters who will deliver the news, the public service, the local voices, and the local arts programming commercial broadcasters refuse to provide, Congress, the President, and the FCC are quietly proceeding to permanently privatize these irreplaceable broadcast frequencies by auctioning them off. Atlantans from community radio station WRFG, from People TV, from Black Agenda Report, the Georgia Green Party, and the Communications Workers of America showed up December 1st to tell the FCC to stop the privatization auctions, to create new community broadcasters around the country by giving the people back their frequencies, and to make commercial broadcasters pay for the free public spectrum they use by levying substantial license fees which will fund the not-for-profit community broadcasters and other community media. The FCC usually displays video of past events beginning the day after they happen on its website at http://fcc.gov. But in keeping with the FCC's general reluctance to inform the public about its unpopular privatization schemes, the FCC seems to have delayed posting the video of its own December 1 Atlanta public meeting. Fortunately, Atlanta citizens took some of their own video of that meeting.
I want to thank Commissioner Cox for his tremendous service. Thank you so much. I represent community-owned radio in Atlanta, the only community radio station in Atlanta, WRFG, Radio Free Georgia. We offer voices from a vast diversity of people and opinions to empower individuals and communities. We stand against sexism, racism, classism, militarism, and anti-immigrant chauvinism. Community radio educates and informs the public in return for public investment. Commercial media, on the other hand, sells products for profit. It's been found in the history of capitalism that privatization and consolidation of wealth leads to inequities, poverty, and pain. And we have witnessed degradation and relaxation of regulations in virtually everything we've established in America that offers some kind of public commons that benefits the people rather than corporations. It is said that unregulated concentration of wealth led to today's economic debacle, yet many want the same formula. That's insane. It has to stop. We have this concentration in media as well, of course. Today we have 4 corporate giants controlling vast numbers of radio stations and reaping billions of dollars at the expense of independent news. Where's the clap for that, you all? Media in America represents corporate America, but it does not have to be this way. The public spectrums that commercial interests use to transmit their signals are owned by us, the people. Yet the government has allowed these interests to use the spectrums for free, to then monopolize and make billions of dollars while offering next to no public service. It's payback time. This cannot continue. Democracy demands informed voters. With corporate media, however, we have a population tainted by information delineated by commercial interests, rather than the breadth of views and opinions of an independent public media system. Given that the FCC has failed to regulate media in the public interest, the situation cries for integrity and independence. What does Atlanta need? It needs more nonprofit community media, and the existing nonprofit media needs financial support on an ongoing basis, rather than teetering on the edge by consistently having to go to its listeners for funds, like a bake sale. Alternatives need to be adapted and planned for immediately. Here are 3 recommendations to support and build community media. For one, the government auctions off frequencies, and there are plans to do more of this. This is the ultimate of gross privatization. Yet these frequencies are owned by us, the public. Instead of auctioning them off, they should be given to communities across America for public and nonprofit broadcasters and public television. They are ours after all. Secondly, commercial media should be required to pay for the right of making use of the frequencies owned by us that they use for their own financial benefit. This is a gift from the public that they do not deserve. Substantial license fees from commercial media should be immediately implemented, and the fees should be used to fund public and nonprofit broadcasters and public television in a public media trust fund. Third, there should be a $300 media tax credit for Americans. Taxpayers will check the media entity they want their money to be assigned to, and or have the money going to the public media trust fund that we need to establish, actually. Occupying Wall Street demonstrators protest economic inequities in America today. The occupation of media needs to be included in the mix, and that means occupying the FCC and the airways to demand that public community radio be prioritized as a necessary public commons, and there must be incentives and opportunities offered to make this a reality. Thank you. I agree with Commissioner Michael Cox when he said there should be a PBSS in America, a public broadcasting system on steroids. I like that. He said that it can't be done on the cheap, and we'll hear laments that there's not a lot of extra cash floating around these days. But other nations have found ways to support such things.
And the clock.
The point is we need to start talking and start planning now. Indeed, let's do it.
All right, our next panelist is Hank Putoff, former managing editor of the Atlanta
Organizer of Occupy Atlanta. The wealthiest 1% of corporations use media to silence the 99% through consolidation, threatening net neutrality, causing many to ask the question, are the FCC commissioners public servants or corporate servants? The wealthiest 1% in corporations use untold amounts of money to lobby politicians and regulators such as the FCC to make policies that benefit the 1% of corporations but harm the public and democracy. How has media consolidation to five major companies helped the public and helped enhance democracy? Where are the stories in AJC and other media discussing how corporate media conglomerates are corrupting our government?
The transition from analog to digital TV freed up thousands of potential new channels and frequencies ideal for public municipal broadband and community-owned stations. Instead of handing these publicly owned frequencies back to communities and creating thousands of new not-for-profit community broadcasters, women and minorities, there goes your real diversity. The FCC is privatizing these precious and irreplaceable public properties by auctioning them off. So the number one thing a lot of us think should happen is the FCC ought to stop the frequency auctions and cease these privatizations. I want you to tell me why that can't be done. Number two, the FCC ought to give these frequencies back to the public, back to not-for-profit community broadcasters who will be glad to provide the access to local voices, the local news coverage, and the public service that community broadcasters have that commercial broadcasters have refused to provide us, like rappers who you never hear because they'll never get a Sony contract. Number three is, like Ms. Heather Gray said, make the commercial broadcasters and cable operators pay for the cost of community broadcasting. They're making trillions of dollars off scarce public resources. That is the spectrum. They need to pay for that. At this point, mic check, mic check. Mic check! Here it is. Stop the privatizations.
Stop the privatizations.
The frequencies belong to the people.
The frequencies belong to the people.
Create new and diverse community broadcasters.
Create new and diverse community broadcasters.
By giving the people back their spectrum.
By giving the people back their spectrum.
Make the commercial broadcasters and cable operators. Pay for the scarce public resources they use. By funding community broadcasting.
By funding community broadcasting.
Thank you.